Welcome everyone. In this little tutorial, I'll show you how I set up these scales and feathers on this character. I posted this a while ago, but got like quite a few questions about it. The cool thing is they both use the same workflow. So let me show you what I've done here. It's all about a cloner setup with fields, because this field basically controls the size and distribution of these feathers. But it goes a little further than that, because it's important how you kind of set up this honeycomb structure around a surface. So let's set this up from scratch. I think I just need the head. So maybe the base. Let's just copy this over to a new document. Then let's recreate what we need here. Okay. Let me copy this base mesh too, because the first thing that we need is a somewhat evenly distributed polygon mesh. We only need the neck. Let's hide the rest for now. Because what we want to do with the cloner, we want to clone onto points. So if like a couple of these are missing, then we just have these feathers or scales here and there, but not like in between. So we have to make sure it's somewhat evenly distributed. And you can do that on your mesh. Like in preparation, just go for the slide tool, for example, make sure preserve curvature is on, and then we just create like a couple more subdivisions. It doesn't have to be perfect, and you can like tweak this here and there where you need it, but this is how we kind of set this up. And let me create a cylinder here without the caps, we don't need those, to kind of create the same idea for the arm. Because let's start there, it's a little easier, but same thing, we want to clone on top of points, so we have to make sure that we have enough height segments. Actually, let's go with one, convert this, and then just go in edge mode, use the edge cut with MF, and then we just add a couple of cuts here to have like somewhat square polygons. Okay, so let's create our scale really fast, just using a cube here. Let's convert it, create a shape really fast, some kind of taper, maybe a little thinner. And then we already use this one for our cloner. So I'll put it in a null object. I really like putting objects in a null object. This gives me like more control, but we'll get into that later. So this is our scale, and let's put this into a cloner. Just hold Alt, click the cloner, and it becomes a child of the cloner. Cloner by default is set to grid, but we want object, and when we click on object, nothing happens because there is no object in here. So we can put our cylinder in here, and now our scale is cloned onto the object. But by default, the distribution is set to surface. We don't want that, we want vertices. So vertex, and now if we scale or scale down, it's all like very evenly distributed and not this kind of honeycomb structure that we want. We can even apply like the transformation here in the cloner, so it already like separates itself a little. But yeah, the most important thing is this kind of honeycomb structure. So how do we get that? Let's deactivate the cloner for now. Go to our base object here, base arm, point mode. And then what we do is we bevel all these points to change the direction of our polygon flow. So I just go Control A, MS for the bevel, and make sure limit is on. If limit is not on, you kind of destroy your object. But when limit is on, these points bevel until they meet another point. And this is super, super cool because now we have different polygon flow and this kind of direction that we need. but we have points on top of points. So we have to make sure that we optimize it, like Control A and MO, no, UO for the optimize, UO, and now all these points have been merged together. And now when we activate our cloner, we can see that something different is happening. It's hard to see, so let's just scale down the scale we have here. And now we have this kind of honeycomb structure, but they're all pointing in different directions. The easiest way to do it is to use an up vector. That should be down here. Up vector, let's set this to Y. And now they're all pointing in the same direction. And we have the scale structure. Yeah, let's just take this cube, throw it into a subdivision surface. And I'll just make sure we add some subdivisions. Maybe one, another one in the middle, again with the edge cut tool, MF. In edge mode, you can even move these points downwards so it becomes like a little more pointy, and I think also add like a little bevel in the middle here, maybe even at the top. And this already starts to look good. With the right angle here, it starts to look nice. Okay. So far, so good. Now let's get back to our neck for the swan, because we'll do the same trick here. Go to point mode, select everything, Control A, MS, and then bevel everything, but without like a subdivision. Without a subdivision and with limit activated, and then again Control A and UO to optimize to avoid we have points on top of points. And now we can just go to a cloner, use the same setup here, go to Object, and just use our base of the neck. Beautiful. Already working. Again, we can tweak the angle, probably need some more here. We can also tweak the scale. But now comes the important part, which is like the distribution with the fields and the scale. So for cloners, we can use effectors. And when you have the cloner selected, and we go up here for MoGraph effector, let's just use a super simple plane effector. And by default, position is active, so it kind of looks completely off. You can even like save a plane effector where nothing is selected and just save it like as a default. Because what we want is scale, and we want to scale it down like uniformly. And when you set this to -1, it actually scales them all to 0. So far, so good. But no, we don't see scales anymore. The cool thing about effectors is effectors have these fields. So here in the Attribute Manager, go to Fields, and now we can select any field. I think I created, or I used a capsule. And you can already see where the capsule is touching the object. We have this kind of fall off. So the inner part of the capsule controls the fall off. If we do this like to like 100%, it's just like showing or not showing the scales. So you can play with this fall off too. So let's just scale this down, move it up and rotate it a bit. I think that's what I've done here. And now we've scaled those down at the top. And you can use like many of these, right? You could add another one, like go back to the plane effector. This one is set to normal. And if we create another capsule field, it's automatically set to max. So it gets basically added. So you have like so much control with how they are distributed or shown on your object. But I'll delete this one. I don't need it. And I think in my example here, I just created like another plane effector. Let's go here, plane. And I think I set this one to maybe -0.5 to just overall have like little like smaller scales at the top. And I think the field that I used was just like a linear field. Let's see, something like that on Y. Then just move this one up. Something like that. And then again, we still control the entire setup with like this one scale that we've created. I think this is so powerful. And when you have everything set up, you can even like hide them here in the editor. And now we can make like some tweaks. I mean, this cube is now subdivided, so we could also decide to kind of bend it a little bit, maybe even add some more detail. So let's just do that. Shift click on the bend so it becomes like a child of the cube. And now we're like bending in the wrong direction. Still wrong, but we can just turn this around here. And now it should do the trick. We can keep the length. Nice, looking good. And let's also add like some detail here. Maybe just copy the cube, invert it, then we bevel this out, extrude it out with like create caps, just like creating like a little detail on top of it. And now the second one is not affected. So what we can actually do is we can just move the bend up so it affects the entire hierarchy here. And we can shift click add a null, put these both in a null, and then the subdivision surface affects both of them. When we affect the bend, everything is kind of set up. And we have a null object, so we can even add like more stuff to it, like a sphere, for example. Scale it down. Then maybe move it to the tip. And now when we activate the cloner, all of the clones have this style applied to it. And I'm actually happy that this happened now because I set up the bend in the wrong direction. But here's the cool thing, because this is a null object, it's super easy for us to tweak. I mean, if I move it here, it doesn't, like nothing happens, but we can hit L to activate the axis mode. And then all we have to do is just rotate this around 180 degrees. Make sure to turn it off again. And now we can play with the angle here. This looks so cool. And again, this is like one object in a cloner. Let's render this really quick to get like an idea. Yeah, I think this is just such a fun workflow. Could even like apply some color. I mean, this is just so fun to play with. You see, I already have to hold back because there's so much stuff that you can create with it. So yeah, have fun with this setup. If you build something with it, let me know, send me a DM, show me what you've done, show me your render. Yeah, have a great one. If you want to get more into polygon modeling, check out my course From Pawn to King Master 3D Modeling, where we model all these 6 characters from start to finish. Link is in the description below. See you there.